The following news flash is brought to you by the Lone Star Lowdown, providing your daily bulletins for the commodities market. Today in history, news updates, and the inside scoop into the tides of the alternative. Markets for Friday, April 8th, 2016 are currently trading with gold at $1,239.45 an ounce, silver $15.36 an ounce, Texas crude $37.26 a barrel, and Bitcoin is currently sitting at about 419 U.S. currency. Today in history, the year 1943. Then U.S. President Franklin Roosevelt, in Executive Order 9328, froze all wages and prices, prohibited workers from changing jobs unless the war effort called for it, and barred rate increases to common carriers and public utilities. All this interventionism was allowed in order to freeze inflation, which is itself caused by intervening in the money supply. FDR froze the economy. Today in history. In recent news, Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas had a shooting today involving 2 airmen who were killed. As of now, it appears media outlets at the scene are reporting that an airman shot his commanding officer and then himself. 2 Glocks were found at the site. The U.S. Air Force said in a statement that this was a workplace violence incident and not a result of a terrorist attack, while the Bexar County Sheriff's Office did describe the deaths as a likely murder-suicide case. It's still uncertain how the Glocks made it on base, however, since individuals, including military personnel, are not allowed to carry weapons on site unless they are in security forces or the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. Inmates at 7 different state prisons across Texas launched a work strike this week. It seems inmates refused to leave their cells, prompting all 7 prisons to put their entire facilities on lockdown. According to the Incarcerated Workers Organization Committee, or IWOC, the problem in Texas is that prison labor does not contribute towards their parole considerations, the compensation which doesn't even add up to cover the inmates' $100 copay associated with their medical expenses, and the heat they're put through in the Lone Star State can be deadly. The IWOC is also calling for 60% of the 180,000 prisoner laborers, which adds up to about 100,000 jobs, should be given back to the citizenry, which would alleviate unemployment in the state. Keep in mind that prison workers receive no benefits, no disability compensation, no Social Security, and no overtime pay. The Prison Policy Initiative, a nonprofit and nonpartisan research institute, describes the $2 billion annual prison industrial industry as nothing less than legal slavery. The list of fixes and grievances can be seen on the IWOC webpage. This is Rick Rohde with your lowdown for April 8th, 2016.
Hello, this is David Burke calling in from Sydney in Australia. And I'm here with Andrew, Lucky Chewy Lichtenberger.
Hello, everybody.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Elisa, we can hear you.
Excellent.
So we're joined with Dr. Elisa Wampole in Las Vegas.
Yeah, it's 5 a.m. here in Sydney, Sunday, April 10th, 2016.
And today we had a lot of fun, a lot of work, a lot of fun. We had an event today where we hosted in a amateur poker event a group of investment bankers, real estate developers, accountants, and we tried to, we hired a dealer and a poker table, and we taught them the basics of Austin, Texas Hold'em poker.
Yeah, it was really fun. Everyone had a great time. We were able to just introduce them to the game, made it a really calm, comfortable setting, and everyone seemed to really enjoy it. They saw the comparatives and transferable skill sets between their own professions and industries and what poker has to offer.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. When you're playing poker, of course, you're looking at, investing in your hand, the strength of your hand. There's certain risks, there's certain different mathematical averages you have to work out and probabilities. So it was a lot of fun because some of the players really could see the parallel to their own day trading or their own investing. And it was really fun, the conversation, talking about, okay, now if the hand changes, is there more risk? Is there less risk?
Yeah, it's very true. As a hand develops, just like any situation or a day or any aspect of life, the odds change or the decision-making changes. And it's just something I love so much about poker is that it really is a micro of the macro of life, of the universe. And as you play the game, you're able to experience that and see that, after each hand ends, a new hand begins.
And it was a lot of fun. We then actually took them to the casino. And so there was three of the gentlemen, two investment bankers, day trader, and accountant. And they played a small game. It's like a 1-3, $100 or $300 buy-in. Actually, no, one of them played a 2-5, which was, I think, a $500 buy-in. And one of them did extremely well. He more than tripled up. And it was his first time playing poker live. He'd never played in a casino before.
Yeah, it was really incredible. I was really happy for him. He looked like a kid in a candy store, had like a giant smile on his face. And, it's really great, like seeing someone do something bold, having their first experience in a casino, playing poker and being rewarded.
Yeah. And, I told him more like after we played the amateur game, like with the dealer and teaching everyone the basics and having fun conversations about the mathematics and probabilities and economics of comparatives of both poker and the financial systems and just life systems, just general life. And they really enjoyed and saw the parallels. And it was pretty amazing that after time, guys just come down to the casino and look at the tables, but, we'd never recommend, using your money to play, just enjoy, play for fun, those things. And they all wanted to play. It's like trying to hold back wild horses.
Yeah, it's really true. I think after having the experience of playing in such a fun, jovial setting, they were able to take that calmness and transfer it to the casino, even though it was an inherently different setting and atmosphere. Just having such a great experience playing poker, they felt comfortable playing for money then. Yeah,
and when you spend time with people, share with them some of the joys of poker and the mathematical archetypes of life and how it reveals yourself in the game and teach you a little bit about yourself as a person. It was really a great compliment. One of the investment bankers wanted us to come and have a corporate night with the other banker partners, and so it really is universal. Like, people love mathematical truths, whether you're working on planes, trains, automobiles, banking, or farming, or just trying to find yourself.
Yeah, it's so true. It is just a universal thing. It's the mathematics inherent in life, and we're all a part of nature, and this truth reflects upon us.
Yeah, one thing really fantastic about playing poker for fun with friends is you can sit across from each other and you have a couple of hours to chat about life, and you have fun competing, but also fun in making friendships. And then you're in a hand, out of hand. There's a lot of great times to stop and chat. And I told one of the financial advisors, was an accountant, I said, so, it's wonderful because you get to have, when you play with your friends, like, you get to have an intimate experience with their consciousness and how they deal with situations of probability, of money, of bankrolls, of those type of things where you might rarely never see that because you work in different departments and those type of things.
Yeah, I think I may have mentioned this on the show before, but it is one of my most favorite components of poker is that meeting people from all different cultures, all different professions. And, the business types really do love the challenge because they've been very successful in whatever it is that they've done to create their own wealth. And they see poker as a challenge. And it's absolutely fascinating to get to know them. And I love that in poker, you can never underestimate any opponent, even if they're a first timer, because whatever it is that allowed them to be successful in what they do is still unknown to you because you don't know them yet. And being able to empirically find out what it is about this person that allowed them to be successful, you can then implement that into your own life. And I'm a big believer in taking, the positive aspects of anyone you come in contact with and being able to integrate that into your own experience.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Andrew. And it was so much fun, these personalities that we played with, because they all had a bit of a unique viewpoint on life, as we all have our own little nuances. And spending time in a casual environment with people, problem solving with games, it's like the quote from Plato, where you'll learn more in an hour playing a game with someone than you will in
a year of conversation.
Yeah. So it was a great experience. So I recommend more people to have social, fun, no money, play money games with their friends and just, refine each other's game and learn one of the joys of life for many people, which is poker.
Yeah. I always tell anyone who asks me about poker that, it's really great as a hobby, even though I've pursued it as a profession. It's just a wonderful, way to, as David explained already, get to know people. And it was kind of fascinating. We all came together for poker on this particular night, but something else that we all had in common was our love for farming and organic food and fresh food, clean food.
Yeah, some of our friends, our new friends in investment banking, they were very surprised at first how excited we were talking about organic farming. And I was talking about how, it's great. Every family should have their own small farm and learn how to grow their own food, because it's so important to know what your food supply has in it and how it's being made. And it's up to the standards that you want for your own life. Many times there's issues with the quality of food. You're not really told what's in the water, what's in the fertilizers, how the food is produced, how it's then turned into the food you eat. And it's such an important part of your life. It's food is such an intimate experience because it's going inside your body.
Yeah, it's literally making your blood. It's creating your muscle. It's forming your bones. And I've become, over the last few years of my life, so much more interested in my own food supply and how do different foods and nutrients and minerals affect my body. How do they affect my consciousness? How do they affect my performance in poker, my performance in athletics? And
it was a lot of fun. We actually catered the event. Andrew and I went to, it's called About Life. There's several of these organic grocery chains in Sydney. And they also have a cafe and a little miniature restaurant and a lot of really positive energy there. And so we went there and got different types of ingredients. We wanted to source local organic farm, local and sustainable farms, produce, and we wanted to test some of the different local seed cheeses, such as cashew cheese spreads, different nut butters. And we also found groups that make their own local types of dehydrated chips. And so we put the whole platters together ourselves, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Definitely a bit of work, but, I love being in the kitchen, using my creative ability and trying out different flavors and seeing what goes well. And it was well received. I think everyone enjoyed it. Yeah,
the organic cracker seed cheese with 3 different types of cheeses on it, vegan cheeses, was a big hit.
Yeah, and gotta give props to David. He made some great skewers with tomato, tofu, and some different nut cheeses. But we're coming up to our first break. So, we'll be back after the break to chat about some more of our favorite flavors. Stay tuned.
This is the Logos Radio Network.
I found immortal power.
Hello and welcome back to the show. This is Dr. Lisa Wampole. It is Saturday, April 9th, and we are split up across the world at the moment. I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada. David and Andrew are speaking from Sydney, Australia. And then Ryan Mitzel is there in Austin, Texas. How you doing, Ryan?
I am doing wonderful. How are you doing, Elisa?
I am
Beautiful day.
excellent. Yes, it's beautiful and sunny outside here. How is it in Austin?
Oh, it's absolutely beautiful as well. It seems all three of us have managed to find ourselves in places where it is just sunny and bright, and everyone seems to be enjoying themselves. So it's definitely good to hear.
True that. And I hear we have a guest in the studio in Austin today.
Yes, we do. We have the lovely Miss Ashley Maltz. And if you want to check out her website, so before we get going, her website is ashleymaltzmd.com. So be sure to check that out. How you doing, Ashley?
I'm great. Thanks, Ryan.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you recently moved here to Austin, right? Where did you move from?
I moved from Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I was an assistant professor at the University of New Mexico.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
We have some amazing people on now. We have a couple doctors, and Lisa's teaching, you're teaching. Wow, this is a very wealth of knowledge. I feel blessed to be on with everyone.
Yeah, well, it's great to spread health and wellness
Definitely.
around the world.
Could you tell us a little bit about your background and I guess maybe how your journey went from, going to medical school and getting your MD to kind of the stuff you're practicing now?
Sure. So I completed my MD and did an internal and preventive medicine residency in Galveston, Texas at UTMB. So go Longhorns, it's part of the UT network, after doing my undergrad in Austin. And I always knew that I wanted to do something more preventive, kind of outside the box, not necessarily prescribe medications constantly, and was always a psychologist at heart. So really wanted to delve and dive into people's motivations and motivations for doing things in the way they, and wanted to help them live their best life, really. So that being said, I went on, did the med school thing, kind of put, knowing that I didn't want to practice like a regular MD, and then ended up doing a fellowship in Connecticut for 2 years where I did, it was mostly clinical, but I counseled patients on clinical nutrition and mind-body therapies and learned medical acupuncture, guided imagery systems, a wide array of information. I also completed the Andrew Weil Fellowship through the University of Arizona.
Oh, wonderful. He's done some great work.
Yeah, and created a network that way through the fellowship. And went on to take a job at the University of New Mexico for in academia, teaching and practicing integrative medicine. So what I do is blend the best of all modalities.
The West
there.
and the East.
That's my easy way to describe it. East meets West. So.
That's amazing. And it seems that there are so many people nowadays who are really wanting more alternative or Eastern modalities, because they don't necessarily want to go in and just get a drug prescription or get surgery. They are looking for natural means. Do you find that to be the case, Ashley?
Absolutely. And I love it because it allows me to kind of be creative, really. If one drug doesn't work for a patient, great. Let's try herbs. Let's try acupuncture. Let's try stress reduction. All these things that have over the last 30 to 40 years been researched and found to actually work, sometimes even as well, if not better than medication. So I'm a big proponent of opening up to all modalities and, whatever's safe. I'm not, not everything is safe necessarily, but just because it hasn't been proven in a double-blinded, randomized, placebo-controlled trial through the NIH does not mean that it's not valid.
And peer-reviewed. You got to make sure it's peer-reviewed,
yes.
right?
Sorry, I had to make sure I got all those things. I should never leave that out again.
No, I totally agree. It's just the idea of freedom of choice, and it's just that simple. There's only very limited options in the West, unfortunately, when you go to a Western medical doctor, and just bringing all these other options out there for people to have, I think is just a wonderful thing. That's how this country was founded. So let's just give people as many options as they want and let them make their own decision, and let's just let the results speak for themselves.
Ashley, I have a question for you. What inspired you to really look at how to heal people? I have different people that I've talked to who, pursue a career, and I always hate calling it a career when I refer to medicine or healing people, but pursue an education. And they decide to just look at one thing and focus on one thing. And a lot of them tell me like, oh, I don't know whether this stuff really works, but it's just kind of what I did. What inspired you to pursue all these different avenues and to put so many tools in your toolbox to be able to help people?
I think I've always seen things from a big picture perspective. I've never been as detail oriented as maybe some of my medical colleagues are. And that worked against me in medical school, obviously. It was a lot harder for me to, ace an exam or, please my attendings. However, I found that I was always really good at relating to the person as a whole and not necessarily putting them in a disease box or, because everything affects their disease process. If it's a disease at all, it's mostly inflammation. So what they're putting in their body, what they're thinking, what they're doing with their lives and exposing themselves to and the people they expose themselves to, it all manifests as in their body. So it came very naturally to me. And I think what happened was in medical school, I was fortunate to have a very kind of big guy in integrative medicine at my medical school, Dr. Victor Serpina. And he happened to come speak to my class. He speaks to all classes. And, most of my colleagues were laughing and, he was, just, they're not into it. They're into cardiology and that's all they want to do is restart the heart and open up coronary arteries or whatever they're into surgery, whatever it is.
Right.
And he spoke and it just opened up a whole doorway for me to express the more, I guess, healing oriented side and psychologically driven avenues that I'd been looking for.
And actually, for yourself, being exposed, like you said, open up a new doorway. Having the ability to see so many different perspectives of healing, how have you found it affect your own life, like your own feeling of wellness?
Oh, wow. Immensely. So in residency and in med school, I suffered immensely. Let's just throw it. It's well known. It's not exactly a time of healing or prosperity and love and feeling great about life.
Med students are stressed out? Really? Oh.
Yeah. Have you seen...
I thought it was cupcakes and rainbows.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it is. Unicorns. And it's wonderful. Actually, I loved med school. Med school was fun, but very stressful. Residency really killed me. It killed me. And I had to seek out other things. I would go to my colleagues or my attendings and I'd say, I'm just so fatigued. Can you, let's check some labs and see what's going on. And everything's normal because I'm healthy. I am at the base of my, existence. I am a healthy person. However, I just felt horrible. So what do you do after that? You have to layer, peel off the pieces and really delve in. And that's what I did.
Very true. We're coming up to our break here. So after the break, more with our dynamic doctor duos, Dr. Lisa Wampole and Ashley Maltz here on Nourishment for the Spiritual Warrior.
When you surf the internet, you may get the false impression that you're alone, but advertisers are likely to be watching, and a Gallup poll says we don't like it one bit. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, and I'll be back to tell you more in just a moment.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This public service announcement is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
According to a new Gallup poll, most Americans are not aware they're being tracked and profiled as they surf the internet, but they clearly hate the idea. Researchers ask internet users if advertisers should be allowed to customize online ads to match the websites they visited. 67% said no. Nevertheless, advertisers continue their stealthy ways. Here are 3 tips to stop the snooping. Number 1, stick to privacy-friendly websites when possible, especially for web searches. Your search terms reveal a lot about you, like your interests and your medical conditions. Number 2, delete tracking cookies. And number 3, visit websites through a proxy, like the one at StartPage.com. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht. More news and information at CatherineAlbrecht.com.
You're listening to the Logos Radio Network at logosradionetwork.com.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is David calling in from Sydney, Australia with Lucky, Chewy, Andrew Lichtenberger. And we have Dr. Lisa in Vegas, and we have Ashley, Dr. Ashley in Austin with Ryan, our superstar reporter, who we're very lucky. I don't know how Ryan meets these incredible guests. He must have some type of like intuitive radar system where he just runs into people that are doing profound things. And if you're just listening to our show for our international listeners, Dr. Ashley has done something that I very much admire that's very positive in the world. She's gone the extra step and looked at multiple modalities to heal people. So she's looked into Western medicine, she's looked into Eastern medicine, she's looked into different types of natural medicine. And the story, I think, is just fantastic. And just before the break, Ashley was telling us about how learning about these things affected her own life. So I was hoping, Ashley, we could pick it up from, so you were in residency, working very hard and looking at your body and how you're feeling, and what type of changes, what type of complementary things did you find worked for you along the journey of because it's a very hard life being a doctor and you're seeing people not when they're at their best. So what type of things did you use to get yourself to that level where you could feel really good?
So I started mostly with chiropractic and massage. Those were the two very prevalent modalities where I was in Galveston. So I would go pretty frequently, kind of make it regular. And I definitely used exercise and as a stress relief, as well as just eating healthfully. I've always been a healthy eater for the most part. And then it kind of, when I got to my fellowship, that's when, I started exploring all these other modalities, guided imagery and hypnosis and medical acupuncture, or just acupuncture in general. Still went for my regular massages and still exercised and worked with diet and, changed my diet again. I'm always changing my diet. There's no constant as I learn more. And then I learned mindfulness-based eating, my MBSR. I've learned all kinds of different, meditation and yoga. Oh, yoga has been a very big part of my practice as well since medical school. Actually, since college, I started going here in Austin. Yeah. So. And
what type of style do you enjoy? Do you enjoy the vinyasa flow? Asanas? What is the style that you find is enjoyable for you?
It varies. I will do anything from yin restorative yoga to, depending on my mood, to vinyasa flow hardcore class. So it just, some days I need a little nudge and I always feel better after yoga, no matter which class I do. I always feel better unless I've gone to, I did do I forget what it's called. A class where it's continuous and they just keep going and there's really little direction. I can't remember what it's called, but I went to one of those classes in Albuquerque more recently and it just kicked my butt. And that I didn't want to go back to. I didn't feel great after that. But most other classes I feel really wonderful after.
Yeah, yoga is always a good thing, it seems, as long as you're doing it with mindfulness for what your body needs.
Right. I always say it brings me back to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Union. That's what the word yoga means, union, right? So union with yourself. And then question 2 for you, Miss Ashley, and I guess for our listeners. So when you're doing residency for medical school, how does that work? Do they pay you to do that? Do you show up and work for free? Or like how exactly does that work within the whole process?
I'm laughing at that question because we do get paid, but the amount of hours we work, we barely make minimum wage, many residents. So it's not quite free work, but it is close to it. And, there actually is an unspoken epidemic of physician and medical student suicide. I don't know if you've seen my posts on Facebook about this, but
sure.
I think that is one of, the reasons or contributing factors is that we all go into medicine. Most of us go into it for altruistic reasons. We really want to help people. We see ourselves as an implement or tool of healing in some form or fashion. And it gets kind of manipulated and used as free labor. And it's a problem. There have been, I think, 3 residents in New York City that have jumped off the buildings of the hospital. Suicide in medical students. I keep hearing stories from all over the world. One in Hong Kong is having a major epidemic, especially also because we're very high overachieving personality types to start, and you're going to make mistakes. That's just life. So it's a really it's actually become kind of a passion of mine to talk about and hope to heal.
Yeah.
So actually a question on just what you were talking about. What type of things do you think, if you had to give some advice to someone that is working very hard in medical school, of ways to deal with stress? What type of suggestions would you give?
Yeah. So I have seen medical students, residents, nurses as patients, social workers. Everyone is extremely stressed out. I love doing acupuncture, so I love to stick needles in people and see the effect almost instantaneously, and then they can get a glimpse of like, oh, it doesn't have to be so stressful all the time. I can relax. And then kind of gradually, I'll add some herbs. I love ashwagandha if you're wired and tired. I love kava kava for slowing down, calming the muscles in the body. There's all kinds of those things. Obviously, mindfulness and meditation is really important. A lot of people I find have a hard time getting there and practicing. So I just try to meet them where they are and see what they're willing to do. Going for a 20-minute walk every day, you'd be surprised how little movement, maybe you're not surprised, but movement actually occurs in the hospital or anywhere near it.
Actually, I had another question kind of on that same topic in a way. I mean, it seems that you have a lot of modalities that you have in your toolkit. And so when a patient comes in, how do you pick which thing you want to use for them?
Yeah, again, I do love sticking needles in people. But
do you love that too, Lisa? Do you love sticking needles?
It's great. It works.
Guys, watch out for these ladies. No.
It does work. It's amazing.
It's amazing. But I ask them and try to meet them where they are. So what are they willing to change? And what, using motivational interviewing, where do you see yourself? And what would you like to explore? I could do pharmaceuticals. I can do herbs. What would you prefer? But most people are coming to me for alternatives.
Right.
And what are some of the examples that you've seen? Maybe after the break, we can go into a couple more that you've seen personally, Ashley, where people have come in and you've been able to use such things as acupuncture or mindfulness, where you've seen great improvements in the person.
There are many. So I worked a lot with chronic pain patients in my fellowship and in New Mexico. And those are really where hence the needles, and I do trigger point injections as well as medical acupuncture. And I have seen one person in particular, go back to school or even have the desire to go back to school after being on disability, start swimming again. Yeah. And feeling like a human being, feeling revived. So that.
What do you inject also?
Lidocaine.
Okay.
Lidocaine. Mm-hmm.
Or
nothing.
About the pain.
Yeah. Placebo? What did you?
I can inject nothing, and it's the needle. No, it's the actual magic of the needle breaking up the muscle fibers and healing that area. It's great.
Almost like the needling technique.
Yeah, it's very similar. I think it just has a different name and billing code.
There we go. That's what's right. Make sure the insurance companies get the codes right.
Yes. That's always the thing. Very true.
Beautiful.
Well, looks like we're coming up on a break here in a few seconds, so we will be back after this break with more with Dr. Ashley. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. See.
Descends to the earth, a time where the mind is defined and confined. We the people need to realign with the divine. A government for the people, by the people realigns. No more taxation without representation. It's time for the people to have their say. No longer the prey. Aligned with truth, there's nothing we cannot do. Divide and conquer lies and false promises. These are the archonic weapons of hurtful decay. The abundance of the earth is the perfect technology, and the golden age is now. Rise together as one in peace and prosperity. Are hacking the bio-internet, and the false light is blinding. Plugging into intuition, balance is restored. Drawing from love, fighting for freedom and liberty keeps the unity in the community. We have to becoming better, refining the mind, accepting divine impunity. We rise as one in unity. Life is a circle, life is eternal. The ancient wisdom opens the way. Together, we are the generation of the golden age.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Nourishment for the Spiritual Warrior here in beautiful Austin, Texas, along with Dr. Lisa Wampole in Las Vegas, David and Andrew in Australia. So I am here with Dr. Ashley Maltz. I want to make sure I give everyone her contact information again in case you want to get in contact with her. So her website is www.ashleymaltzmd.com. That's ASHLEYMALTZMD.com. Or if you want to email her, you can send her an email at asmaltz1120@gmail.com. So if you're interested in any of this stuff, if someone wants you to have a talk with a medical doctor and you're looking for some alternative practices, I think she would be great to contact, if you're here in Austin. So be sure to check that out. So
yeah, I have to say, it's quite nice having a medical doctor who is interested in alternative therapies because just in general, I've talked to a lot of people, not even necessarily patients, but just people in general. They sometimes they just go, I don't want to go see my doctor about this because they're just going to give me medicine or they're just going to want to do surgery. And I don't want to do that, and they complain that their doctors, don't have any other options for them other than prescriptions and surgery. And wow, what a nice thing to be able to offer something else other than the standard, prescription.
Yeah,
and sorry. I was just going to add to Lisa, it's fantastic that I actually can see from multiple perspectives. So maybe if you have an existing file with a doctor and you are looking for other options, because one thing I when I was speaking with the professor, he said, always remember you can hire a doctor, and if you're not getting healthy, you can fire your doctor. I don't recommend those things, but it always made me think of if I'm not getting healthy, then maybe I just need to get a second opinion or a third opinion or a fourth opinion and just find out, are there other viewpoints that I'm missing?
Well, wait, Dave, isn't that what happens in sports, right? Let's just use a sports example here. And if the team doesn't win, they fire the coach, right? If the players aren't performing, they fire the players. It's not like a personal thing, but if the doctor's not performing and not giving you the results you want, why not check out other options? It makes perfect sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I agree. I think people should be more discerning about, some people don't have a choice. We all have choices, but if you're on a very fixed income and can only see who your insurance has told you to see, and you're on the government plans in America, you are quite limited. That's not saying that there aren't some amazing doctors working in those capacities, and there are. I've seen them. I know them. They're amazing. Yet they may not have some of these tools that are kind of more outside the box. And unfortunately, most of the people that I will work, I don't accept insurance. So, and most of the doctors like me will not take insurance due to the limiting factors of time that is prescribed by the insurance companies. But there are people and systems, and I think it's all changing a lot. So most major medical centers or hospitals have an integrative medicine center they can send patients to. However, it's usually, there's not usually there may or may not be an MD there for, medical issues, but.
Yes, and also, true. Insurance will pay for alternative therapies to a point, but still, they're not going to pay for your herbs, most likely, that I know of. They're not going to pay for your meditation session, most likely, although there may be some policies that have some of that type of coverage, but it's still new and it's still, for the most part, not the norm, from what I've found. So, yeah, I hear you on that. Dr. Ashley, it's hard with insurance, and I used to accept it, and I just stopped also because, quite frankly, the insurance companies just don't, for the most part, cover, even when people do come and they say, oh, I cover acupuncture, but then when I check, the insurance company only covers, after visit number 20 or something odd. So it's sometimes one of those things you have to pay out of your pocket.
Myself, just looking at it from, I guess, a non-doctor's perspective, and it kind of makes you a little bit nervous that your doctor's ability to help you may be by what type of insurance you have and what you can afford, as opposed to what you really need. And I really wish they would make it a lot easier for people to be able to afford and people be able to seek out the modalities that they really want to experience. In Australia, in Sydney, we have the largest Asian Chinese population in Australia, being right next to China. And the people there, they love their acupuncture, they love their Tai Chi, they do in the park. we're talking to some of the bankers today, and they were talking about every time I'm sick, the first thing I go and do is I go and talk to my Chinese doctor and get acupuncture, and I feel really good after. And for some of these people who come from these type of cultures, it's difficult for them to now think, okay, well, we have, these things already proven in China, and it's a part of our culture and our life, and I'm paying taxes in Australia, I'm paying taxes in the US, but I'm not allowed to experience this, and it's not going to be covered. I find that just a difficult thing to deal with when I look at the charts and I see so much incredible effects of acupuncture on chronic pain. And I look at some of the studies I've read through, and I see fantastic results on better nutrition. And I really wish, we could work something out to where both the patient and the doctors could be paid a lot better and more efficiently, and the patients can choose modalities that they feel comfortable with.
I echo that sentiment. I mean, I think it is changing. There are large companies that are now taking mindfulness meditation and practices and classes for their, offering that for their employees. They're offering aerobics and yoga and lots of healthy food options. But until the reimbursement comes from the medical system, I think most people are going to opt out and most people that practice what I practice and other alternative quote unquote modalities are going to just be cash based. And that is limiting. It breaks my heart that I can't help people on Medicaid. I literally cannot take cash from them, no matter if they want, even if they wanted to step outside the system and had, $50 to spend, which I would.
How does that work, Ashley? Why can't you?
It's considered medical fraud. I just cannot take cash from Medicaid patients.
Because you're a medical doctor?
Right.
So you're like, so Dr. Lisa, who isn't, she could accept cash or?
Yes, because I can't. Wow. I don't get, Medicaid won't pay me. So therefore, I guess I can't accept cash. Isn't that just a silly thing?
That's wild.
Yeah.
Seems really overbearing. Like,
to America.
Yeah.
Like denying someone to buy something at a store seems, very similar to that. It's kind of unusual.
Yeah, when I was researching about healthcare, I was seeing like America was ranked at the time about 56 in the world in healthcare from an article that I read, and it kind of confused me because I know in America we spend so much money on health. We spend the students spend so much money to go to medical school. I was talking to a friend in China, and he studies both Western medicine and Chinese medicine in China because they do both there. And I said, oh, well, how much does it cost there? And he said, oh, about, let me convert it, probably around $35,000 US for a 5-year program. And he's like, yeah, it's kind of expensive.
Wow.
Oh, gosh.
And I was like, I think that's really, really cheap compared to what people pay in the US. And I didn't really know what. So I looked up, what you might pay at Yale or Harvard and these schools. And when my friend saw it, he's like, how do people afford that? And I'm like, well, they don't really. And then he's like, well, if they can't afford it, then how do they pay for them? I said, well, a lot of them get loans and these type of things and live a family. And he's like, but they're trying to help people. Like, don't you want people to be helped? And I'm like, yeah, it's a cultural thing. And he just had this blank look on his face, and it was very cute, very funny. And I said, it's a young country, and we're in time. I think we are going to keep improving, and what works, people are going to be healthy, happy, and they're going to live, and we're going to have community. And what doesn't work, it has to fall apart. Pain and suffering eventually shakes everything apart. And it was just fascinating. He said the originally in China, the doctors were paid only if you were healthy, not if you were sick.
Right. And they were paid with food, services, not necessarily money. They keep the patients in the village.
Wow.
And actually,
like
anytime you would like some food, I will definitely help you out with that.
Hang tight, everyone. We got a break coming up here.
Hello, everybody. This is Andrew Lucky Tree Lichtenberger. Alongside David Burke in Sydney, Australia, we have Dr. Lisa Wampole in Las Vegas and Ryan Mutzel, and our guest today, Dr. Ashley Maltz. We're speaking with Ashley about her integrative medical experiences. And Ashley, if you'd like to share some of your experiences treating some of your patients, we'd love to hear it.
Great. So I've had a diverse range of patient experiences, as I'm sure Dr. Alyssa has too.
Of course, yes.
And, you hope for the best, and whatever comes out, it's what you get. But let's see, some ones that really, stick with me are the patient that I mentioned that was actually on Medicaid, and I was practicing in a FQHC, which is Federally Qualified Health Center. They have a certain ratio of Medicaid and underserved patients, and so they get federal funding. And this was in a very impoverished area of Connecticut. And this person she was actually transgendered. So she now was on disability for chronic back pain. And we did some trigger point injections and for a few weeks. And then she comes back and she's a completely different person in the way she presents herself, her affect. That's, how her face lights up and, or not. And she tells me she joined the YMCA and she's swimming and she wants to go back to school and all these things. This is a person on disability, which most doctors say, once they're on disability, you can't ever get them off. That's actually not true when you empower them towards health. And they feel a lot of people there are people who manipulate the system and will do anything and everything to stay on, a fixed income like that. But there are a lot of people who actually do want to get out of the system. And this was one of those cases. Now, I stopped working there, so I'm not sure what exactly happened with her, but I hope she continued to thrive and get better. I've had a patient, you had asked during the break about hypnosis. I had one patient, I don't actually practice hypnosis myself, but I do refer out. And this patient had actually come from this physician who practices hypnosis. And he had a stroke I'm not sure which portion of his brain, but it had affected his swallowing function. He could not swallow. So he had
That's dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just spit in a cup all day and carry it everywhere he went.
Oh my gosh.
Couldn't eat. He had what's called a G tube where they feed you through the gastric tube. He lost all pleasure of eating. I mean, that when you're fearful that you're going to choke on something, you don't choke. You don't eat. Right. So, lost a big part of his life. He also had lost some ability to walk, but happened to be a champion downhill skier previously and learned to ski again before he started walking again. I thought that was so awesome. But that just shows you the resiliency and the muscle memory in his body. But the reason that he came to me was for the swallowing function. And he had been working with this doctor, an MD who does hypnosis. And this doctor, he was actually slowly getting better with it. And it was very slow and very gradual, but he said during the sessions, the doctor would tell him later, you were swallowing during that session. You weren't spitting or whatever it was. But it was fascinating to me. I mean, he also ended up having other interventions but by the time, after about 2 years of seeing him kind of regularly, just as a primary care doctor and support system, he had improved dramatically with his swallowing. So those are very rewarding cases,
Yeah, there was oh, sorry, Ashley.
No, I was just saying I didn't really even have that much to do with that case, but I just found the power of the brain and the mind and even just energy in the body is so powerful that it's completely underestimated.
Yeah, I really believe that. One of the top yoga teachers in India, we flew him to Iceland to teach ourselves and some of our friends for a month. And he taught at the university level in India. And he was a lot of fun because he also learned from all the different yogis, and he told us all about his little guru and all this stuff. It was really cute. But it was a really lot of fun because we want to ask, you hear these mystical stories about yoga teachers. And so we thought, okay, we've got one of the better ones that we found on earth. Let's ask him some fun questions. And we asked him a little bit about hypnosis or meditation and if, how people can heal. And it was the same thing. He said, there's no limit to the power of the mind. And he said, but it's a lot of work removing the restrictions you put on yourself. And he talked about one study apparently that happened in India where there was a man who was sentenced to death by the government. And he was told that he was going to die through being bitten by a particular snake, and that snake was very poisonous. And when they went to have the snake bite him, the man couldn't see, and they actually just used someone's fingers. And the person reacted as if they were bitten by a snake, and they died. And he said in the testing of the blood, it showed their body reacted as if they had been bitten by that particular snake. So whether the story was true, I don't know, but it was fascinating that this yoga teacher had such kind of reverence for the power of the mind and the ability of the mind to be able to change functions in the body. And another thing that he was quite interested in sharing with us was the shakamas. And those are exercises for our listeners that know or don't know, where you do things with the body where normally, say, the body functions a certain way, the nervous system, automatically, and they would train it to be able to switch the nervous system on and off at their will. And he said, the body, it has locks in it, and it's kind of like training wheels, so you don't fall off and hurt yourself. And he said when you really study the human mind and human consciousness, then the universe lets you start to take these locks away. And then there's really no ceiling to what humans may be able to do. This is a little fascinating story from this yogi in India.
Yeah, that reminds me, I don't know if you've seen the research on the placebo and nocebo effect.
No, go into it.
Please go into it.
So everyone knows what the placebo effect is. You tell someone, you give them
a sugar pill or something, compared to...
Yeah, and they do or don't. If it's a placebo, they will get some sort of effect, and it's biologically proven. You can see it. There's also the antithesis to that, the opposite, the nocebo effect. So where you give someone something negative, and it actually creates a disease state or something negative. So an example would be telling someone they have cancer and it's the wrong patient, and then they die of cancer, or they develop cancer. And this is documented. It's not in the major medical journals that I've seen. It's not in JAMA, New England Journal, but it is. You could go on PubMed, which is like the NIH research, governmental agency, and type in nocebo, and things will pop up. I mean, this is it's been studied for a long time. So I think the mind and what we take in from our environments is so important.
Yeah, actually, something that as soon as you explain these things, it just pops into my head is the TV, the music you listen to, all these signals entering your consciousness. It seems like this type of media that we're bombarded with, from advertisements to TV shows that are paid for purely just selling a product that you may or may not need. Do you think people should be mindful about the type of music they listen to or the TV shows they watch?
Absolutely. I did some conscious development courses a few years back, and I at that time decided I'm no longer watching the news ever, and I don't. And my life, first of all, I'm not bombarded by these negative stories, but that time that I spent watching TV, I could do other things, and that's more productive and positive. So I often I have had patients come in and tell me they can't sleep. Okay, well, what are you watching right before you go to bed? Or are you watching TV? Oh, yeah, I'm just watching the 10 o'clock news, the 11 o'clock news. And I'm like, first of all, the light from that is stimulating and turns down your melatonin production, which helps you sleep or inhibits you from sleeping. But B, that negative imagery and so another person was found dead today on such and such street, and there are riots in the street, or whatever it is, or the political stuff going back and forth. It's not healthy for us. And it blows my mind that it's so programmed.
That's why they call it programming.
Yeah.
Who's programming who?
That's true. I never thought of it like that. It's so normal. I tell people that I don't watch the news, and I get looked at like I have a third eye. I do have a third eye.
That's why you don't watch the news.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Maybe I should have said third head. I'm sorry, third head. So yeah, absolutely. And people also, the stimulation we were just constantly bombarded by. I can't do it anymore. I'm so sensitive now to loud music, and I actually turn the music off in my car. I don't listen to that anymore. I used to be obsessed with it. Now I try to meditate while I drive. It's much more calming and peaceful for me. It sets me up for a better day.
Yeah, unfortunately, so many people, and this is, I guess, why, meditation and mindfulness exercises are so amazing and powerful. So many people are so unhappy in their own minds that I feel like they need to have a television on all the time, or they need the radio, or they need something, because they simply just can't be with themselves and their thoughts and their emotions, because they have so much, so much pain. I guess they have so much suffering that they haven't learned how to fix from the inside out. And in the end, what happens is that mental, agitation turns into an illness. And so that's why, and a lot of the, I think so many diseases are coming from states of negative emotion and unstable mental states. So learning to go back and fix the problem is really one of the only cures, real cures to actually treating these illnesses.
I completely agree. And with the overstimulation, it actually has a negative effect on our nervous system. So
Yep.
I think a lot of our medical illnesses, if not I wouldn't say most are caused by it. I don't know that, but overstimulation definitely doesn't help.
Absolutely. More here after the break with Dr. Ashley Maltz on Nourishment for the Spiritual.
You are listening to the Logos Radio Network. LogosRadioNetwork.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to Nourishment for the Spiritual Warrior. I am Ryan Metzel in the studio, the lovely Dr. Ashley Maltz, as beautiful as she is talented in medicine, I would have to say, too. I mean, between you and Dr. Lisa, Lisa's a world fitness champion, and you, it's like we may have people showing up at, our place instead of just wanting to practice medicine just to hang out with you two. So we're going to have to watch out for that. But, I think you wanted to, I guess, let people know a little bit more about your practice and what people here in Austin can do if they're searching for someone like you. I know I run into people all the time at Wheatsville. I introduced you that one time to Amy, and there's so many people I meet like her that are looking for alternatives to the medical system, but have to stay within that channel, which you're still plugged into. Right. So let them know a little bit more about your practice and how they can get in contact with you.
So I have joined up with a wonderful group of practitioners at a practice downtown called West Holistic Medicine. And so it was founded by Jennifer Pollard, who's a family doc here in town, and she decided to switch over. She was at a practice at AOMA, the acupuncture school, or traditional Chinese medicine school here in town as well. And then she decided to do this as a cash practice. So we are downtown at West and 9th, and it's a beautiful space. It's a little small, but it's a wonderful space. We have myself part-time, Dr. Pollard, who runs the practice most of the time and is there most of the time, Dr. Dane Mosher, who practices functional medicine, which is kind of a more root cause analysis and approach to medicine that's up and coming. It's actually extremely popular right now. And a licensed acupuncturist, Vanessa Huffman. She's apparently very talented. I just have gotten to know her over the last few weeks, but very amazing practitioner. And a chef, a plant-based chef as well, and a yoga therapist, Liz Riley. So we've got a diverse group of people, and we love to help people in whatever form that they need. We offer integrative primary care, integrative medicine consultations, acupuncture, mind-body exploration, whatever you're really looking for. And I'm actually hosting a series of classes on mindful eating coming up in May. We're starting May 5th. It's a 6-week series, and it's $250, so it can really help people who tend to overeat or not know their limits, and really tuning into what they're putting in their body and how much. So
that's interesting, because I actually I was reading a book. Of course, now I can't remember the title of the book, but it was written by a Buddhist woman, I think, who was a doctor, and about mindfulness and eating. I was reading it especially while I was dieting for my fitness competitions, and I wanted to eat everything because I was limiting what I could eat. But I found it to be a really great practice of just enjoying your food. And it's so interesting how people just sit down and like slurp down their drinks and garble down their food, and like you don't even realize you've eaten it by the time it's gone. And it's so not the best way to eat. And when you actually just sit and you meditate and you enjoy the flavor of your food and you slow down, it's amazing how much more satisfied I think you feel after eating something. How is it that you teach this mindfulness meditation or food eating, and what do you think are the benefits, Ashley?
So I stumbled upon this in my fellowship, where I was kind of allowed to pursue whatever opportunities I felt I wanted to. And it just happened to be that their assistant for this training couldn't go. So I stepped up as an assistant at the Omega Institute, and it was fantastic. I tried out acrobat for the first time, and it was really scary. So I did this training, and basically while you eat and after, and really figure out your cues for hunger. Like, is this real hunger? Is this physical hunger? Emotional hunger? Is this, am I full, or am I could have a couple more, or not? It's really just slowing down the process, because like you said, we just chomp our food and we're doing 100 different things at the same time. And not that I'm not guilty of this. I am.
Eating in the car and all these things.
Yeah. I mean, life is busy. Let's face it. But when we engage that parasympathetic response of rest and digest, we digest better, we feel better, we may lose weight because we're not eating as much, because we're more satisfied. It's just a healthier way of being.
Yeah, I agree. It was kind of funny. David was talking about the yoga training that we had. And I remember one of the things, because we would all eat together in the kitchen, and a lot of us would just grab the food and stand there with our plate and eat. And the teacher always say, sit down when you eat your food. and then it was funny, because as I was going through some videos for my acupuncture CEUs, and they were saying, again, you got to sit down when you're eating. If you eat when you're standing up, you're going to get spleen qi deficiency or whatever it is. And it just made me laugh, because it's like, from yoga culture to Chinese culture to Buddhist culture, everybody kind of gets it, in one way or another, that, you need to consume your food when you're in a relaxed state, and
also,
you're going to be healthy for it.
Another culture that gets it is a lot of European countries, like the French paradox. You've heard about that, where maybe or maybe not. So that just means like they drink wine with every afternoon and evening.
Oh, yes.
They
lots of breads and cheeses, which
bread,
here
cheese. They have meats. They have rich desserts, and they're healthier than we are in terms of cardiovascular function.
Yes,
and we're not that genetically different. So there's something else going on. Personally, I think it's the mindfulness that they're eating. They're really enjoying life. They're not necessarily working at the computer and eating. Everyone gets, like in Spain, you have siesta. I think in other cultures too, Italy,
yes,
as well. So
I don't think anyone in Australia is going to die of stress that I know.
Really?
Not that I know. I mean, Australian culture, it's the joke is you come to Australia, then you retire. Like it's people in Australia, we don't live to work. We have kind of like just a cultural lifestyle of balance, but leaning more towards family, friends, and social activities.
Yeah, and that's a huge part that's missing, I think, here in America for sure. Community, like sitting and talking with people and laughing and not feeling like you want to be elsewhere. It just doesn't happen.
Being present, absolutely,
right.
Instead of being on your cell phone and texting everyone and
or working.
Yeah. Today with our new investment banker friends and accounting friends, we organize all this organic vegan food from this little organic food store, Platters, and we all spent about 3 to 4 hours playing poker, laughing, eating, and learning about each other. And I said to someone, I really love humans. we've got so many more layers than my laptop.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually started a conscious book club here in Austin. When I first got here, I went to a meditation retreat and started this with some of the people in the retreat. And our new book that we're talking about is called Reclaiming Conversation.
Beautiful. We'll get more into that after the break here on the show. Stay tuned.
India's snake charmers face dangers every day, but that's nothing compared to the wrath they face from animal rights activists. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, and I'll be back in just a moment to tell you why 1,000 snake handlers have taken to the streets to protest.
Your search engine is watching you, recording all your searches and creating a massive database of your personal information. That's creepy, but it doesn't have to be that way. Startpage.com is the world's most private search engine. Startpage doesn't store your IP address, make a record of your searches, or use tracking cookies, and they're third-party certified. If you don't like Big Brother spying on you, start over with Startpage. Great search results and total privacy. Startpage.com, the world's most private search engine.
The Snake Charmers Federation of India is a coalition of thousands fighting for the right to perform street shows with live snakes. I kid you not. An amazing 800,000 Indians make a living from their craft, which is handed down from father to son. When India passed a Wildlife Protection Act that outlaws the ancient practice of snake charming, 1,000 snake handlers turned out to protest. About 20,000 people are now in jail for defying the ban. But it turns out the charmers aren't quite as brave as they let on. Animal rights activists say they often sew snakes' mouths shut, remove their fangs, or destroy their venom glands to make them harmless and defenseless. That's not charming at all. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht. More news and information at catherinealbrecht.com.
Trails.
Live Free Speech Radio, logosradionetwork.com.
And welcome to Nourishment for the Spiritual Warrior. This is David Burke in Sydney, Australia, with Andrew Lucky Lichtenberger.
Yes, hello everybody.
And we're joined by Dr. Elisa in Las Vegas, Brian Mutzel, and Ashley in Austin, Texas.
Wow. Somebody's got a loud rainstorm.
What is that noise?
I am not sure. Is that, Did we lose Dave and Andrew?
I'm not sure. Hey, I think we lost...
of, the stuff you do and the stuff Ashley does, and I guess how you guys maybe could work together as far as the different modalities that you guys do and the similarities between the two.
Well, there's similarities and there's differences. Obviously, since I'm not an MD, I certainly could never prescribe drugs, and nor would I. But it's kind of nice to have a medical doctor that can. I'm assuming, Ashley, you can prescribe drugs if it's necessary. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of nice to have that option. But, we both treat with acupuncture, and that is incredible. I absolutely love acupuncture. It works really well. That's all I can say. It's sometimes it's an immediate result, and it's so gratifying to have a patient come in and have them walk in with pain and then walk out feeling 80 to 100% better. There's just no better feeling than that. And Ashley, you were saying just before the break about the book that you were just starting and your book club.
Yes.
Could you finish telling that story real quick?
Yeah, the book is called Reclaiming Conversation, The Power of Talk in a Digital Age, and it's by Sherry Turkle, Turkle. I just started it this morning, so I have, fresh insights. And it was just talking about how middle schoolers in a school in upstate New York were, they're just not interacting the way the teachers were concerned. And so this researcher, Sherry Turkle, was brought in to talk to the teachers about what's going on in their school. And they're just not interacting. They're not creating those friendships, those bonds, because they can get that stimulation or that
the fake stimulation, I guess.
The virtual friendship online. And so or through an avatar, like they're creating these beings. I don't know. It's just interesting. So I we'll see how it goes, but I've heard it seems like a really interesting topic and good book. So
yeah,
definitely.
It's weird how in the digital age, there's such a different way of, relating to people, and I imagine it does, like I have a friend and she almost never calls. She always texts. And for the most part, I don't ever see her in person. And it's like,
is this a real friend?
I know. It's like,
what kind of really... new Chinese herbs have you been taking, Lisa?
I know. It's an imaginary friend. No, I get photos from her on my text message, so I know that she exists. But, and yeah, sorry. I actually, I wanted you to finish that. And Ryan had asked me a question, but I was getting a bunch of feedback in my ear, but it seems to have fixed up. So it was distracting me. But anyway, going back to what I was saying about similarities between MDs and basically acupuncture. It's awesome, Dr. Ashley, that you actually can do acupuncture as an MD, because it's just another little tool that you have in your tool bag.
I would say though, sorry to cut you off,
go ahead.
that I expressively tell people that I am not a Chinese medical doctor, and that I, like you have the capacity you have the amazing lexicon of herbs and other modalities.
Yeah.
That I don't. So
yeah,
there's different.
It's different because I understand in a lot more depth after going through so many years of Chinese medical school, the whole entire system, which is amazing and incredible. And I still feel after 4 years of school and like countless hours of CEU courses, and even after teaching, it's so deep. There's so much more to learn with regards to Chinese medicine. And it's one of those things you can just study your entire life and still want more. But having said that, one of the other things that I absolutely love is nutrition, and not specifically Chinese medical nutrition. I enjoy Western types of nutrition and Western types of herbs and certain types of naturopathy. Although I'm not an expert with naturopathic medicine, there are some naturopathic remedies that I recommend to patients and sometimes sell to patients. For instance, like the naturopathic allergy drops for people who have allergies. Nothing works as well as those drops with regards to allergies, I found.
Homeopathic?
Yes, the homeopathic one. Sorry. Where they just put a little tiny bit of what the allergen actually is into.
Is that the Las Vegas allergy mix you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually Charles Green actually bought that. That's his product now. Yeah.
Used to get that, and it works really well because it just desensitizes your body to the allergen. So it's
we definitely need that. I've had someone show me that actually. I can't remember if it was a patient or another friend or provider who showed me it was a friend who showed me their Texas allergy mix here.
Yes.
And it's the only thing that has worked, and people are suffering immensely right now from cedar and.
Oh yeah. I even started to get some allergies when I went to Austin, and I was like, man, I need to get some Austin allergy drops. But I used to get the shots. I had allergies really bad when I was younger. And so I would go and get the shots. Well, you don't necessarily have to get the shots if you take the drops, because it's basically the same idea. It's, desensitizing your body to that allergen that's already in the air. And I've met a couple people who say the drops don't work for them, but for the most part, I've had great success with the drops. So,
and I really think a lot of it, like Ashley was saying, with inflammation, or I just believe that with the correct diet, you can fix a lot of that. When I was younger, I got allergy tested several times. They scraped me like everywhere on my body, and they tested me for everything. I didn't have allergies, and they're still like, here, take the Claritin and take all this and everything, and nothing. Obviously, that never worked, and I always had issues. And so I was like, oh, now my nutrition's right, and suddenly there's no problems anymore. So there has to definitely be some relation to that between your body's internal system, the gut flora, bacteria, and, that being able to just take care of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the gut flora is where the immune system comes from. So if it's out of whack, then everything's out of whack.
Yes, absolutely.
It's very true. But Ashley, we are almost at a break once more. Can you, again, if people want to get in touch with you and if they want your services, how do they get in contact?
So they can call West Holistic Medicine here in Austin at, I'll give you the website, www.westholisticmedicine.com. Or they can look at my website, which is www.ashleymaltz, that's MALTZ, MD.com. And I'm always happy to respond by email or phone.
Beautiful. After the break here, we'll get back with David Andrew, and I believe we have a special guest coming up for our last segment of the show. So everyone stay tuned for Nourishment for the Spiritual Warrior.
This is David calling from Sydney, Australia with Andrew Lucky to Lichtenberger. And we have Dr. Lisa in Las Vegas, Ryan Mutzel, and our first guest, Ashley, in Austin, Texas. And we've brought on Thomas R. Dickens in California. A lot of medical personalities on the show today. And Tom's dad actually is a doctor, and congratulations, he just had a birthday. And Tom, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? And Tom is actually one of the top CGI artists in the world. He's known for movies such as Harry Potter, Scooby-Doo, Stuart Little, SpongeBob, Spider-Man. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Tom? Some of the things you've worked on and your new film that you've finished and it's going to be coming out soon.
Sure. I live in Los Angeles. I'm originally from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. That's where my dad was a practicing neurologist. And he just had they just gave him an award and a party in Broward County for being one of the first people at Broward General Hospital to actually help form that hospital. And he also worked there for almost 60 years. So just had that. So that's really something great that he's done. He helped a lot of people with many traditional medicine as well as some other alternatives such as hyperbaric oxygen. But I grew up in Fort Lauderdale. I took a different line of work. I was an artist at a very young age and got into filmmaking using a Super 8 movie camera at the time and doing stop-motion animation and other effects on this camera. And after a while, I just continued that interest. And eventually, after film school, I moved out to Los Angeles in '89. And I started off doing traditional special effects, such as stop-motion animation, miniatures, walk-around suits, conceptual designs, matte paintings. And then in 1996, I went into computer graphics. My first CGI film was Anaconda, and I worked on many of those films that you mentioned and more. And then a few years ago, I wrote a script for a movie about aliens and about their ability to alter our world using the powers that they have. And they are able to create virtually almost anything within limits. They're not gods. They can't create entire universes, but they can create things that you can see and affect your world. So the film is kind of about that, and actually the film is complete. Aliens Zone X is what it's called, and it had a screening in many cities, Fort Lauderdale, New York City, Los Angeles 3 times, Austin, Texas.
Las Vegas?
Las Vegas.
The theater sold out in Las Vegas, right, Tom?
Correct. It was a sold-out show in Las Vegas, and I'm hoping there's going to be another one. The film is anyone can see it in any theater in the United States or in Australia. You could go see it in Australia right now, David, being over there. It's anywhere it's anywhere in the United States or Los Angeles. Basically, you go to tugg.com, tug.com is the website. And then what you do is you go down to the genre, and you go to science fiction, or sci-fi it's called, and then you just click on Aliens Zone X, and you can select what day you want to see the film on, and what theater you want to see it on, and it will show as a digital cinema package projected. It will look just as quality as, and it will sound just as quality as any film that you see in the theaters, and it will show in any theater that you pick. The only downside is you kind of have to meet a minimum of tickets sold. So it's a little bit like social, it relies on your social network. So if you really want to see this film, you host the film. It's free to do that. And then you get a bunch of people to see it, and you'll fill up the theater, and you'll get to enjoy the film. Now, and this will continue. This will always be available to see this film in a movie theater in the United States or Australia. Hopefully it will spread to other areas. But
and Tom, this being one of your independent films, you actually got some awards for this film too, right?
The film got awards. It got Best Actor, it got Best Special Effects, and Best Movie twice at the festivals. It was shown in New York City at a festival to a packed house, and it got Best Special Effects and Best Lead Actor and Best Picture. And then it was shown in the festival in Los Angeles, and it got Best Picture also.
Who was the best
really
best actor?
Yeah, who was the best actor?
The best actor, I was just about to say, was my friend who's speaking to you right now on the phone, and the radio show host, who is David Burke. Now, David Burke and I met several years ago, and I just thought he was striking. He reminded me a bit of Steve McQueen and other stars that I had seen in the past that were just really a striking actor, and I thought he would be a great action hero star. And I really wanted to work with David, and we also hit it off as friends. And David has many interests, as I do, in many different subject matters, and one of them is filmmaking. So we both got together, and I wrote this script for Aliens Zone X, and I kind of wanted to write the lead character, whose name is Don Morgan, around David. And David Burke he does martial arts. As I'm assuming the audience knows, he's a great martial artist. He has spiritual beliefs and has an open mind to what might be out there in the universe. And he also is physically in great shape. He's very handsome, and he's a great actor with the ability to memorize lines on the spot. Some of my lines in the film were actually like paragraphs, and he would read it once or twice and then be able to say the entire line, the entire paragraph, which I don't think many actors would be able to do that. Even the top actors in Hollywood can't do that. So what ended up happening is that we used Don Morgan as the main character. He's got he's got the ability to be in tune with the powers of the universe using chi powers. And he develops those over the film. So in the beginning, he's struggling to gain those strengths. But the motivation of being in the middle of a dire situation with this alien attack, he learns to develop and hone his chi powers and be able to overcome the attack of these aliens. And
yeah, Tom, one of the fun things about the film is that I really felt the character got to share to a lot of the audience new to the idea was mindfulness, meditation, yoga, asana, those type of things with dealing with the stress of an abnormal situation.
Precisely. This is how, Don Morgan in this film, played by David Burke, is really put to the test. And part of the film's structure is that it's saying that all of us are put to a test in life. And sometimes it can be very stressful in one way or another. And how are we going to deal with that stress? And Don Morgan uses the yoga, which he is shown doing in the very first scenes of the film. He's doing yoga. And he's confronted with an elemental, and when he uses his chi powers to stop an assault by a elemental, that's when the aliens actually take notice of his powers, and that's kind of why they visit. But there's another scene where David is in the middle of very dire situations, and he is able to focus and relax and go into a calm place and meditate, even during the attack. He's being physically attacked, and he goes into meditation, gains full strength, and uses the powers to overcome it.
Yeah, it's really a fun film, I have to say.
And Tom, having these kind of spiritual elements in a movie, how have you found the feedback from mainstream in Hollywood, regular people who see movies in Hollywood, and also with the independent film circuit?
Well, the independent film circuit certainly has taken to it. There's a whole group of people out there that are wanting change, and they're wanting to go to a different level than just paying bills, going through stress, just going through every day, plus the media training, which is on the television and radio. And just a side note, I would suggest that people really try to tune out to that, knowing that it's controlled by an oligarchy. But the people have turned to this film, and they really love this film because it's independent. This is not controlled by some gigantic corporation that created this film to put you in a certain control. This film is made to make you think, and it's made by it's a mom and pop shop. It's your local pizza shop. This film was made by a small group of people, and it gave people chances that Hollywood would never give. You would never.
And
be
Tom,
able to
one thing that's amazing,
the
film has about 200 special effects shots, and the film did get the best award twice for special effects at the LA New York Film Festival. And I must say, Tom, like the effect job you did is just incredible. It's very inspiring to the young artists that they can create a right-brained visual experience to inspire people about the great things in life.
Yes, thank you very much. This film's won awards, and it has more CGI creature effects than any independent film in history ever made.
And Tom, we'll have to get you back on the show because we got about 30 seconds left of this episode. But maybe in the next week or two, we'll sign you up for another day to talk more about the film. But if they want to see it again, what's that website?
It's TUGG.com, and just look up under sci-fi Alien Zone X. Also look for Alien Zone X on Twitter and Facebook, and the website and
All
also
right.
the DVD.
Thanks for tuning in.